If you ever need to sell real estate as part of an estate for someone who's died, this installment is for you. I'm Mike. This is Mondays with Mike. We're taking a brief break from all the breaking real estate news that's out there to cover, this discrete topic, which this comes up a lot, and I don't know that we've ever covered this or we haven't covered it well. What to do if you're asked to advise or help out, or maybe you're named as an executor for someone who's died, and there's real estate involved. This is going to be a really broad strokes, but just to give you an idea of some of the questions to ask. Obviously, the first stop is an attorney, right? It can be the person that prepared the will, doesn't have to be, but it should be an attorney that understands how to get the probate petition into the surrogate's court. By the way, we're not going to cover a situation where the person dies without a will. Uh, Different process and a little bit more complicated, or it can be a little bit more complicated. So this is for situations where the person died with a will and there's an executor that's going to come into place that let's just assume they have to or want to sell the real estate to get cash. So they're going to have to be appointed. There's a probate application that's going to go in. And depending on how complicated the estate is, how many beneficiaries there are, how many people might have stood to inherit if they weren't named in the will, or if they were named in the will, I should say, that could determine how long it takes for the court to grant authority to the executors. What you ultimately need to close on the sale are what we call letters testamentary. The surrogate's court issues that to the executor or executors to tell them that they have authority to sell the property of the estate and distribute the assets. You don't need that to go into contract, but the title company for the buyer is definitely going to want to see copies, or actually probably an original of the letters testamentary at closing. So having the timeline in mind when you're looking to get a property ready to list or to discuss with potential buyers is important. If it's a simple uncontested will, maybe 1 to 2 months to get letters testamentary. If it's contested and there are going to be proceedings, it could take months. It could, I guess, conceivably take years, but figure minimum 4 to 6 months if it's contested. In the meantime, what can you do? I mean, you can get it into contract. You can put it on the market. You just have to understand the closing timeline when you're talking to potential buyers. It's a good idea to get an appraisal soon after the date of death. Not going to get into specific tax advice here, but when someone dies, the person who's going to inherit the property gets what's called a stepped up basis, meaning the value as of the date of death is more or less considered like the purchase price. So if you sell it for more than that or less than that, I mean that's like your baseline for figuring out if there's a capital gain, and that's going to help you minimize capital gains taxes legally. It's set up this way. You'll want to have an accountant involved also to file the final tax returns, and you need to figure out if there's going to be an estate tax due at the federal and state level. So good attorney, good accountant, and if there's property involved, you want to have an experienced realtor that's helping you through and making sure that all these boxes are checked along the way. Some things to keep in mind: an executor is a fiduciary, so if you have the property listed and you take the best offer, great. Doesn't mean that there's no rule that says you have to have it listed for a certain period of time or you have to entertain a certain number of offers. But if there are multiple beneficiaries involved, they may question the executor if they sell to the first investor who offers cash, simply because it's easy. All right, you want to make sure that you're getting good value. Helps to have that appraisal for this purpose also, and to have it from a licensed appraiser. This is to help the executor cover themselves and to make sure that they're getting fair value, because the person who owned it is no longer with us, unfortunately. The executor has limited knowledge of the property in most cases, and they're not going to want to make a lot of representations. Probably are not going to be able to agree to make a lot of repairs on a home inspection, let's say. And they actually in New York don't have to give the property condition disclosure. That's one of the exemptions from that rule. So keep that in mind if you're buying or selling from an estate. There's limited knowledge from the executors, and it's even more important for the buyer to do their diligence. One other thing that I want to mention, and again, this is broad strokes, and I'm not going to spend too much more than 5 minutes on this topic, in general, other creditors of the person who's deceased have up to 7 months, maybe more, to make claims. So the property might be sold and it might be liquidated for cash, but the executor, hopefully with their attorney, is going to be looking at what other debts there might be for the decedent, the person who's died, and that may factor in, how quickly the house can be sold, or what can be done with that money once it's converted to cash. I think that's it. Without getting too in the weeds, just wanted to throw out kind of those top level things to keep in mind. Happy to talk about my specific experience with this, or get answers if I don't have answers. If anybody wants to DM me if you're seeing this online, or if you get this by email, you probably have my cell, but you can also write back. Love to hear from you. I went 6 minutes instead of 5. I apologize for that, but hopefully this was helpful to everyone watching. And we'll be back, as frequently as I can with more updates on the market. Until then, hope everybody's enjoying this late summer weather we're having in New York, and are ready for the holidays. Talk to you soon.